as if throwing the enemy into a panic and killing a bunch of them with a hailstorm wasn't enough, Joshua asks God to basically make the day longer so that they can just continue fighting while they have the momentum and wipe out the Amorites. So God grants that request, and the day quite literally stands still. Pretty much one day was actually 2 days, or what looked like one day was actually 2 days. What's up, cool people? My name's Matt. Welcome back to our Bible study. Okay. So now we're looking at chapter 10 of the book of Joshua, and last chapter, basically the Israelites sort of got duped into making a peace treaty with a certain group of people who they otherwise would have just outright destroyed. Those people lied to them in order to make the peace treaty happen, because they pretty much knew that they were going to die otherwise, like Israel had done with the people of Jericho and of Ai in previous chapters. So anyway, after that whole debacle, we get to chapter 10. So here we go. And right off the bat, we're starting off with a name that I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't be sure how to pronounce. But anyway, I'll give it a shot here. Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had captured and completely destroyed Ai and killed its king, just as he had destroyed the town of Jericho and killed its king. He also learned that the Gibeonites had made peace with Israel and were now their allies. He and his people became very afraid when they heard all this, because Gibeon was a large town, as large as the royal cities and larger than Ai. And the Gibeonite men were strong warriors. So, some of the people that the kings of the area might have assumed were going to be allies, they're now finding out that, hold up, these people are now on their side? What the heck? And, they're not exactly weaklings either. So that means our enemies, or likely enemies, just gained a bunch more strength. A bunch more fighting power. So, this is really looking bad now, guys. Is what they're thinking, probably. Verse 3. So King Adoni-Zedek of Jerusalem sent messengers to several other kings, Hoham of Hebron, Piram of Jarmuth, Japhia of Lachish, and Debir of Eglon. Come and help me destroy Gibeon, he urged them, for they have made peace with Joshua and the people of Israel. So these 5 Amorite kings combined their armies for a united attack. They moved all their troops into place and attacked Gibeon. Okay. I feel like that would maybe be as much for, revenge against the quote-unquote traitors as much as it would have been to then try and weaken the Israelite army. But if they attacked the Israelite army directly, they would probably just be met with the full brunt of its troops and maybe not be so successful. So instead, they tried to attack the recently made allies of the Israelites just to try and maybe have those people not join Israel in the battle. Verse 6. The men of Gibeon quickly sent messengers to Joshua at his camp in Gilgal. Don't abandon your servants now, they pleaded. Come at once, save us, help us. for all the Amorite kings who live in the hill country have joined forces to attack us." So Joshua and his entire army, including his best warriors, left Gilgal and set out for Gibeon. "Do not be afraid of them," the Lord said to Joshua, "for I have given you victory over them. Not a single one of them will be able to stand up to you." Okay, so basically Joshua and the Israelites agree to go help fight with Gibeon against these other kings and their armies. And God tells Joshua, see, maybe he learned his lesson after being duped, to seek God in these matters. Because if he had sought God and God said, "Hey, no, this is not a good idea," they probably wouldn't have gone and fought. But God says it's okay, so they're going to go fight. Verse 9. Joshua traveled all night from Gilgal and took the Amorite armies by surprise. The Lord threw them into a panic, and the Israelites slaughtered great numbers of them at Gibeon. Then the Israelites chased the enemy along the road to Beth Horon, killing them all along the way to... Or maybe it's all along the way, I don't know, to Azekah and Makkedah. As the Amorites retreated down the road from Beth Horon, the Lord destroyed them with a terrible hailstorm from heaven that continued until they reached Azekah. The hail killed more of the enemy than the Israelites killed with the sword. So, one of those moments where God's making it obvious that he is, aiding his people. And it hasn't all just been by the might of the armies. In case, them being thrown into a panic wasn't obvious enough, hey, guess what? Big old hailstorm to kill a bunch of troops as they're running away from the Lord's people. Verse 12. On the day the Lord gave the Israelites victory over the Amorites, Joshua prayed to the Lord in front of all the people of Israel. He said, "Let the sun stand still over Gibeon, and the moon over the valley of Aijalon." So the sun stood still, and the moon stayed in place until the nation of Israel had defeated its enemies. Is this event not recorded in the book of Jashar? The sun stayed in the middle of the sky, and it did not set as on a normal day. There has never been a day like this one before or since, when the Lord answered such a prayer. Surely the Lord fought for Israel that day. Then Joshua and the Israelite army returned to their camp at Gilgal. Okay, so, as if throwing the enemy into a panic and killing a bunch of them with a hailstorm wasn't enough, Joshua asks God to basically make the day longer so that they can just continue fighting while they have the momentum and wipe out the Amorites. So, God grants that request, and the day quite literally stands still. I'm realizing that's footnote B. Was there a footnote up further that I missed? Oh, right. When it destroyed refers to complete consecration of things or people to the Lord, either by destroying them or giving them as an offering. So, it's kind of assumed destroyed in that context, though, because, stuff is gone, and there's been fighting involved in all of this. Anyway, footnote here. It could be read the Book of the Upright. That might be sort of the translation of Jashar. But since it's like a proper name of something, I guess maybe the translators felt it less necessary to use the translated version in like the main body of the text here. Makes me curious where this Book of the Upright would potentially be. But could be something that was like lost to time through one way or another. Footnote there, instead of saying that the sun did not set as on a normal day, could also be read as the sun did not set for about a whole day. Okay, so that version essentially would give a little bit more of like a time frame for, you know, how long that the sun remained still, basically. Or at least how long that the sun stayed in the sky. Pretty much one day was actually 2 days, or what looked like one day was actually 2 days. Assuming you go with what the footnote says. Okay, so then Israelite army is successful and they return to their camp. Alright. Still have a fair bit to go. Verse 16. During the battle, the 5 kings escaped and hid in a cave at Makkedah. When Joshua heard that they had been found, he issued this command: cover the opening of the cave with large rocks, and place guards at the entrance to keep the kings inside. The rest of you continue chasing the enemy and cut them down from the rear. Don't give them a chance to get back to their towns, for the Lord your God has given you victory over them. So Joshua and the Israelite army continued the slaughter and completely crushed the enemy. They totally wiped out the 5 armies, except for a tiny remnant that managed to reach their fortified towns. Then the Israelites returned safely to Joshua in the camp at Makkedah. After that, no one dared to speak even a word against Israel. Okay, so the kings wound up hiding in a cave, I guess in the hopes that the chasing of the armies would then just pass by them and they could somehow escape to safety. But Joshua realized this, so they just blocked the cave entrance and had some guards set there to make sure that those kings wouldn't escape. And then they come back to it after chasing down all the other people in the armies. Which I'm sure the lack of the kings being there in the battle from that point on probably just further added to the confusion of the enemy armies. Alright, verse 22. Then Joshua said, remove the rocks covering the opening of the cave, and bring the 5 kings to me. So they brought the 5 kings out of the cave, the kings of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon. When they brought them out, Joshua told the commanders of his army, come and put your feet on the kings' necks. And they did as they were told. Not sure why specifically with the putting the feet on the necks, but maybe we'll see about that here in a moment. I mean, that definitely would have kept them pinned down, so there's that. But let's read on. Verse 25. Don't ever be afraid or discouraged, Joshua told his men. Be strong and courageous, for the Lord is going to do this to all of your enemies. Then Joshua killed each of the 5 kings and impaled them on 5 sharpened poles, where they hung until evening. As the sun was going down, Joshua gave instructions for the bodies of the kings to be taken down from the poles and thrown into the cave where they had been hiding. Then they covered the opening of the cave with a pile of large rocks, which remains to this very day. The day that this would have been written and initially read, not so much today, probably. Although it might still be there, I don't know. And there's that whole be strong and courageous that popped up multiple times in the first chapter of Joshua. Kind of a theme of the Lord's encouragement to Joshua and the armies of Israel in this whole time of conquering. So then the kings are dead. And so, like, the armies have been defeated. The kings are dead. Now there's just the towns remaining. The actual, places that the kings ruled over. So verse 28. That same day, Joshua captured and destroyed the town of Makkedah. He killed everyone in it, including the king, leaving no survivors. He destroyed them all, and he killed the king of Makkedah as he had killed the king of Jericho. Then Joshua and the Israelites went to Libnah and attacked it. There too the Lord gave them the town and its king. He killed everyone in it, leaving no survivors. Then Joshua killed the king of Libnah as he had killed the king of Jericho. Okay, so we got Makkedah and Libnah that have now been just decimated. Also, Joshua was not going like above and beyond or anything like that. God had specifically told the people previously to kill everyone in the towns that they conquer in the Promised Land so that they wouldn't be tempted by those people later on to, fall away from God's commands. Okay, verse 31. From Libnah, Joshua and the Israelites went to Lachish and attacked it. Here again, the Lord gave them Lachish. Joshua took it on the second day and killed everyone in it, just as he had done at Libnah. During the attack on Lachish, King Horam of Gezer arrived with his army to help defend the town, but Joshua's men killed him and his army, leaving no survivors. Might have been part of the reason why it took a second day to conquer the town of Lachish. Again, no clue on the pronunciations here. I'm just taking a guess and rolling with it. So, that's 3 towns now. And there were 5 kings. So, you would think there's only 2 towns left. There might be a third, though, because Makkedah... I'm not sure if it said that the king of Makkedah was one of the kings that was killed by the cave. But, details. Verse 34. Then Joshua and the Israelite army went on to Eglon and attacked it. They captured it that day and killed everyone in it. He completely destroyed everyone, just as he had done at Lachish. From Eglon, Joshua and the Israelite army went up to Hebron and attacked it. They captured the town and killed everyone in it, including its king, leaving no survivors. They did the same thing to all of its surrounding villages, and just as he had done at Eglon, he completely destroyed the entire population. Okay, so now... So now that's Eglon and Hebron added to the list. So that's 5 at this point. Southern towns that have been destroyed. I didn't mention surrounding villages in some of the other towns. I'm not sure if that's an indication that the other towns just didn't have small villages or what, but... Anyway. I guess that just further emphasizes the point that it wasn't even just like the main cities or whatever that got attacked and destroyed. It was anything and everyone in the general area. Verse 38. Then Joshua and the Israelites turned back and attacked Debir. He captured the town, its king, and all of its surrounding villages. He completely destroyed everyone in it, leaving no survivors. He did to Debir and its king just what he had done to Hebron and to Libnah and its king. So that's 6 towns now. So maybe the king of Makkedah was in addition to the other 5 kings. But anyway. Verse 40. So Joshua conquered the whole region, the kings and people of the hill country, the Negev, the western foothills, and the mountain slopes. He completely destroyed everyone in the land, leaving no survivors, just as the Lord, the God of Israel, had commanded. Joshua slaughtered them from Kadesh Barnea to Gaza, and from the region around the town of Goshen up to Gibeon. Joshua conquered all these kings and their land in a single campaign, for the Lord, the God of Israel, was fighting for his people. Then Joshua and the Israelite army returned to their camp at Gilgal. They're still going back to Gilgal. But I guess they're just, not settling in any of these towns at all until they've, possibly either conquered the whole promised land or at least a much larger portion of it to then move their camp up further north or something like that, maybe. Also, there's a familiar place name. Lots of fighting and stuff going on there right now. But this is a bit of a different story, though. Anyway, so kind of wish I had a map once again to show how far north that they might have pushed at this point. But I would assume that's basically the entire southern region of the Promised Land that has been conquered, basically. Right. The footnote there next to the foothills. Sorry. Oh, man. Yeah, so the footnote here just mentions the foothills also being called the Shephelah. That was just the other name for it. And I'm not particularly knowledgeable enough of the Hebrew to tell you what that might mean. It could just mean foothills, or there could be some other meaning for it. But, yeah. Don't really have any other thoughts other than... So, I guess it was just kind of like one... Obviously, it took place over multiple days, but it was still just kind of back to back to back that all of this stuff happened. All stemming from the fact of the kings in this region trying to fight against Gibeon, and the Gibeonites asking for help. Which, I mean, it was just one of those things where I guess they sort of just kept it all going because they had a lot of momentum behind them, and they probably, had already weakened the forces of all these other towns. So, why not strike while the iron's hot, so to speak? So, yeah. That will do it for Joshua chapter 10. Okay, so the cycle does kind of still continue. Last chapter was messing up and then kind of trying to set it right at least. And this chapter is another victory. In fact, possibly the biggest victory or set of victories for the Israelite army as of yet. Like 6 different kingdoms were defeated just over the span of, I don't know, like a week or so. But anyway, yeah. So things are really moving along. I don't know. Maybe they can keep this momentum going through upcoming conflicts. But they might have something bad happen first. We'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel, click the bell if you're on YouTube to get updates when I post new videos. If you're seeing this over on Rumble, give me a follow there. And look down in the description to get info on us on social media pages and stuff like that. And below there, leave comments with any thoughts you have. So that's going to do it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you soon for another video. But until next time, stay cool, people.